So in our earlier discussion this week, we looked at the first 3 steps of Melnick's evidence-based practice model. In our time today, we're going to continue that discussion. So as by way of reminder, we're working through Melnick's evidence-based practice model and the model for sustained transformation as roadmaps to guide us on our DNP project journey so that we create DNP projects that are not only rigorous and tap into our professional interests, but also have the power to transform practice. So we said Melnick starts with the necessity of having a spirit of inquiry and having an inquisitive mind. How do we do things better tomorrow than we do today? The second step is creating a very structured PICO question to guide the transformation process. And then that takes us to searching for the best available evidence. I did a very brief example of how to create your PICOT into search criteria on a search engine. I used PubMed as an example. And we saw how in the first search, using the PICO as was relevant for our situation actually revealed no literature. And that's probably not entirely uncommon because the nature of our specific situation may be different than what our colleagues have already written and published about. So I reduced some of the strictness of my search criteria, but still kept to the heart of each PICO element, except for the timing where I removed the year, and then that generated a lot more evidence. We went from no articles using the very rigid PICO statements to 364 articles using the loosened search criteria. And so that's a technique you can use in any database. Convert each PICO element into a search criterion, and then you can broaden and narrow those search criterion as necessary based on your findings. So now let's turn from what we looked at in steps 0, 1, and 2, which are the focus of the DNP Project 1 course, and walk through the rest of Melnick's model. So as you're thinking about your project, you'll have a sense of where this model's going. So after we search for the best available evidence, we're going to conduct a rapid appraisal of the studies that we have found. And the Melnick text has excellent resources for critiquing or doing a rapid appraisal of the articles, not an abstract academic exercise, but looking at the quality of the article and the content of the findings with an eye toward bringing them into practice. And so Melnick and colleagues give us templates for how do we look at randomized clinical trials, how do we look at meta-analyses, meta-syntheses, how do we evaluate cohort studies, case control studies. So depending on what type of literature you want to appraise, they have developed tools to guide you in that process. Again, we won't be doing that in this course, but you'll be doing that as you move forward. Then once you appraise them, you have to decide, is there enough evidence to change the practice that I'm considering? And if there is, then you have to take that evidence and integrate it with the practice context. You have to link it with practice expertise of the clinical team or the public health team or the policy team, whatever team you're working with. You have to customize the findings to your context and think about patient, family, society, cultural values and norms and how those affect the implementation of the best available evidence. So that's what you do if the evidence exists. You critique it, you appraise it, and figure out how to bring it into practice. On the other hand, if the evidence isn't out there, you've tapped into a ripe area for practice transformation. And you can generate that evidence either by doing an evidence-based practice implementation study at your site, of making your best educated guess about what would be a better practice than present, implementing it, and then measuring its impact on the outcome, or designing a rigorous research study yourself or partnering with research colleagues to do that. So you can generate the evidence internally, or you could generate it externally through research. And then once you have that, Again, you're going to be implementing and integrating the evidence with the clinical context, the patient preferences, values, clinician expertise, unit of culture of your unit or your organization. Then after you integrate the best available evidence, you have to evaluate whether or not it had an impact that was intended, and were there unintended consequences from that intervention. So once we get the evidence into practice, did it work in my context? We have to check that. And then the sixth step, and crucial, which we will be talking about a very little bit in DNP Project 1, is then disseminating your findings so that what you found in your context can be shared broadly with the scholarly and the clinician community so other people can learn from your experience and your insights. So there's an overview of Melnick's model in your text. It's also copied and posted on the Blackboard website under the resources, start here rather. And you can download this model and begin to think about it. So we'll focus on steps 0, 1, and 2 in this course, and in so doing, begin to use Melnick's evidence-based practice model as a roadmap for transforming the practice that we are considering in our DNP projects. I look forward to reading your project proposals and ideas, and I look forward to partnering with you in this journey. In our next session, I'll give you an overview of the assignments for this week and preview what you'll be doing in the third week of the course.